Okay. Good afternoon, and we are going to start our Zoom meeting for chapter 8. So we're moving right along with this course again. It's a very fast-paced course. We have to cover approximately a chapter every week. And so, as we've done in past weeks, we're going to continue. We're going to go to our textbook and we're going to go through chapter 8. We're going to go through communication, vocabulary, and then we'll take a look at grammar, the grammar we need to know for chapter 8. And this will help you in doing your homework now in the coming week and then for Sunday's test. So the theme of chapter 8 is la ropa y la moda, clothing. That's la ropa. Y la moda is fashion. So we're going to be talking about clothes. And again, many of you should have or should be familiar with a lot of clothing items. That's going to be the bulk of our vocabulary here. So la ropa could be translated as the clothes. Okay, the clothes are ready, or the clothes are washed, or the clothing, singular, the clothing is washed, or the clothing is ready. Okay, so let's move on here. And so let's go to page 224. Okay. And let's look at communication, specifically, what do they want us to know? What sort of vocabulary or expressions do they want us to know? So, so we're going to be talking about fashion clothing. So they want us to be able to describe clothing and say that it's something great or it's something awesome. And this vocabulary just doesn't pertain to clothing, but they're giving us this vocabulary in because we are talking about clothing. You can say an event was great, a party was good, etc. A person is, etc. So let's take a look um, at these different expressions. If you want to proclaim something is awesome, and there'll be a question on the exam related to this, it's pretty easy. It's very straightforward. But so to if you look at page 224 at the bottom there, it says to express cool or awesome in Spanish, you can use one of the following words. And some of these words are used in more regions than in others. Okay. Uh, so, for example, bárbaro, these are all adjectives. Okay. And so, you may need to adjust them in gender and number. If they are an adjective that ends in an O, there's a feminine form that ends in A. If they end in an E or a consonant, there's no masculine or feminine form. But bárbaro, okay, so something's awesome. And in Spanish, you often precede your adjective with the word que, like how awesome, how great, how amazing. So, que bárbaro, if you're referring to something masculine, que bárbara, if you're referring to something feminine. Okay. Um, que bien. In Puerto Rico, they use que brutal. It's not a phrase I'm familiar with or that I use, but just so you know, que chévere, you hear this a lot, particularly in Venezuela, but in the area of the Caribbean. Que chido, que chida, chimba in Colombia, chulo in Spain and the Dominican Republic, estupendo or stupendous, que estupendo, que estupenda, fenomenal, guay in Spain, que guay, how great, que padre, and then pura vida is used in Costa Rica, but it isn't preceded ever with a K. It would just be pura vida. Wow, awesome. Okay. Let me give you some examples here. And then what if something is just the opposite? It's not very great. Here's a few negative phrases you might want to be aware of it. You'll be tested probably on this. Que aburrido, how boring. Que malo, que pesado, okay, how heavy, like, how obnoxious. And que pésimo, okay. Again, these are negative, again, meaning like obnoxious. These are negative expressions, okay? So just make sure you look at those and you familiarize yourself with them. And then for whatever reason, they've included in this chapter ways to say excuse me. So just take a quick look at this. It won't be much tested on, but how do you say excuse me? Well, con permiso, okay. Con permiso is one way. Disculpa, okay. Now, if you ask somebody and you're going to use the verb disculpa, if the verb is disculpar, okay, if you're going to use a verb form as opposed to con permiso, then you're going to be using the verb disculpar. So you're going to be giving a command, the you command. So remember, there's different forms of you. There's the tu form, the usted form or formal form, and the plural usted form. And so we have disculpa for tu, the familiar you, disculpe for usted, and disculpen for ustedes, okay, the plural form, okay. And then we have perdón. Again, perdón is another word. You can use the noun perdón if you want to say excuse me, or you can use the verb perdonar. And again, there's the tu form, perdona. Again, you're giving a command. The usted command form, perdone, or the ustedes command form, perdonen. All right. Um, Usually, if you want to go by somebody, you can also just say, puedo pasar. Can I pass? Can I go by? Okay, can I pass through? All right. Let's see. They say con permiso is generally used when entering or leaving a room, to leave a table, or to get past somebody. You might say con permiso, whereas perdón and the verb disculpar and perdonar are usually used as apologies for if you interrupt somebody accidentally, maybe you speak over them, or you're walking by and you touch somebody by mistake. Okay. And then how do you say I'm sorry? If you were to say touch somebody or bump into them accidentally, you could say lo siento. I'm sorry. Okay. And if you want to invite somebody to pass by you, you can, again, it's a command. So you're going to have the usted, the tu, the usted, and the ustedes form. So pasa tu, pase usted, or pasen ustedes. So take a look at that. It's not a major, uh, anything major, but make sure you take a look at that. Okay, let's see. Give me a second here. Okay. Just want to see if I can, there, okay. Get myself back in the video. Okay, so I think that does it with communication. Take a look at that section. All right, next we want to now go to vocabulario. And again, the vocabulary deals with ropa, clothing, la ropa. So let's take a look at this and see what we need to know here. Okay, so they start off, let's just look at some clothing items. Many of you should have had these. And again, it's really for you to spend time and review this. on your own, and you can click there on the little light and the little arrows and listen to the pronunciation. But lucir is to look. So usted luce perfecto. You look perfect. Or I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. Luce here means it looks. It looks perfect for your entrevista de trabajo, for your work interview, for your job interview. So a job interview is una entrevista de trabajo, and it's so they're saying, oh, it looks perfect what you're wearing for your job interview. And then here are some again words that you should know. The word for shirt is la camisa. The word for tie is la corbata. The word for suit that a woman or a man could wear is el traje. The word for blouse is la blusa. Skirt is la falda. An overcoat is un abrigo. Pants are el pantalón or los pantalones. I'm more used to it as in the plural. There's a el paraguas. Paragua is a umbrella. Okay. Again, more vocabulary. You can look through it. Camiseta is a t-shirt. Chaqueta, jacket. Gorra is your a cap. Vestido is a sweat is a dress. El suéter is what it sounds like, a sweater. Los jeans. Sneakers are los tenis. Okay, more words. Lentes are glasses. El traje de baño, bathing suit. There's that word traje, suit de baño. El collar, a necklace. Anillo, rings. Pendientes or aretes are earrings. Reloj is a watch or a clock. Pulsera. Okay, it's a bracelet. So take a look at some of these words. There are your colors. Okay, so they might talk about a red sweater. Remember, the colors follow the noun. Say modify. So a red sweater es un suéter rojo. A white cap is una gorra blanca. Okay, a red shirt is una camisa roja, and you have to tweak your colors also, whether they're masculine, whether the item you're modifying is masculine or feminine. So it would be una gorra roja, but red pants would be el pantalón rojo. Again, you won't be so much tested on that. It's just more review. Okay, very important vocabulary. And give me a second here. There's some verbs we want to make sure we know, some phrases in the vocabulary. So let's take a look here. And I want to make sure I cover this. Okay. So the verb to wear, like to wear clothing, to wear a t-shirt, okay, it's going to be llevar, and that means to carry, okay? Or usar, the verb usar, and all of these verbs we can easily conjugate. So here's a question: ¿Qué ropa llevas hoy? What clothing are you wearing today? What are you wearing today? They specifically they say que ropa, but you could just say que bueno, you would normally say que ropa llevas because llevas means carry, or que ropa usas hoy. Okay, okay. You could also say to put on clothing. It's the verb poner, and it's used reflexively. And you could say me pongo una gorra. I'm putting on a cap. Me pongo una camiseta. I'm putting on a t-shirt. So ponerse also could mean to wear or will be used in that sense. So go through the vocabulary, go through some of these exercises and familiarize yourself with the vocabulary. Bufanda, scarf, el cinturón is the belt, la camisa, again, is a shirt. La gorra is a cap. La chaqueta is a jacket. Go through here and look. They gave us a word for glasses. It's lentes, but lentes are often called or referred to as gafas as well. So take a look at that. Okay, so another word you can use for an article of clothing is a prenda. Prenda, okay? So, ¿qué prenda usas? Or, you know, so you'll often hear that word prenda use. Um, and I just did cover this, so let me just make sure I get you on where this is located. Give me a second. Want to make sure. So on page 230 at the bottom there's another box. And again, it's a repetition of what I've just gave you. The verb llevar has several meanings in Spanish, and it for our purposes means to wear. Okay, la niña lleva un vestido rosado. The girl is wearing or wears a pink dress. But it could also mean to carry or bring, as I told you. And you could also use, again, usar for to wear. Yo uso lentes. I'm wearing glasses. Pero mis padres sí los. I'm sorry. Yo no uso lentes. I don't use glasses, but my parents indeed do use them. Los usan. Okay. All right. Um, since we're talking about articles of clothing, and this is good vocabulary to know, you won't specifically be tested on it, but just review the parts of the body. Okay, so because you wear certain things on certain parts of your body, but in any event, oreja means ear, el cuello is your neck, la boca, mouth, hombro, shoulder, codo, elbow, cadera, hip, fingers are los dedos. Take a look. The word for hand is la mano, face is la cara, head, of course, is la cabeza. This is all basic vocabulary, but you might want to just review it. Okay. Now, this is important because you're going to be having some passages, either listening or reading, where people are trying on clothes or wearing clothes and talking about clothing, because that's the topic of this chapter. So here's a good question for you. ¿Cómo te queda? So queda means remain. And here's ¿cómo te queda? Literally, how does it remain you? Well, quedar means to remain, but in this case, quedar means to fit. How does it fit you? We're talking about clothing. So, ¿cómo te queda? How does it fit you? And then you may want to try on clothing if you're at a store. And the verb to try something on is probar, and it's used reflexively. Yo me pruebo. It's also a stem changer, as you can see in the present. Tú te pruebas. You are trying on. Tú te pruebas la camisa. You're trying on the shirt. Okay, and again, here is that vocabulary. Again, to talk about how clothing fits, use the verb quedar. Quedar is conjugated in the same manner as gustar. So, and that's all I want you to see here. Me probé este vestido. So yo me probé, it's used reflexively. Este vestido, it's in the preterite. I tried on this dress, and now me queda bien. El vestido me queda bien. It fits me well. Los pantalones de mi hermano. Here they used pants plural, even though in the other diagram they showed it as el pantalón. But anyway, let's go back. Los pantalones de mi hermano. So my brother's pants le quedaron mal. They fit him poorly. And again, they want you to use the indirect object pronouns that we used with gustar. Remember, with gustar, we do not use subject pronouns like yo gusto, tú gustas. We use me, te, le, nos, and les. So los pantalones de mi hermano, my brother's pants, le quedan mal. They fit him poorly. Los pantalones están demasiado apretados. Good vocab for describing clothing. Tight. So if something is loose, it's ancho or ancha. If it's tight, it's apretado, apretada. If it's short, it's corto, corta. If it's big or grande, loose. Largo, long, pequeño, small. Okay, so you might want to look at this. Here they're talking about clothing. When we talk about shoe size, we use the word, what number is it? We use número, okay? Número es. When we talk about clothing size, what size do you use? ¿Qué talla usas tú? We use the word talla. Talla is for clothing. For shoes, it's número. Okay, so here we have, disculpe, señor, excuse me, Mr. or Sir, ¿tiene este zapato en el número 9? Do you have this shoes in size 9? Perdone, señorita, excuse me, miss, pero quisiera probar it, but I'd like to try on la camisa en una talla más grande. I'd like to try the shirt on in a larger size. Okay, here's some more fashion-related clothing. Again, you're going to have some readings to do, small, very short, or maybe listening passages dealing with clothing. So some of these words might crop up or phrases. Be aware of them. Desfile de moda is a fashion show. Literally, a desfile is a parade. El diseñador is a designer. Estar de moda means to be in style. La camisa está de moda. It's in style. Estar pasado de moda, it means out of fashion. And la marca is the brand name. Okay, just good vocabulary. So take a look at this. And here's a picture. You may have something like this on your exam, but they'll give you a photograph of some people trying on clothes. And they'll ask you, what's going on here? How do the pants fit the gentleman? Are they too large? Are they muy anchos, or are they too tight, muy apretados? So make sure you feel comfortable. Is the t-shirt on the little boy over here in D too long or too short? Does it fit him well? ¿Le queda bien o le queda mal? Okay, ¿le queda apretado o le queda flojo or ancho? Okay, does it fit him too loose? Okay, so take a look at that vocabulary. Okay, and I think that should do it for vocabulario. So now we can go on to estructura. And estructura is the first section of estructura, okay, continues with the preterite. And as you know, we have regular preterite verbs, and we've learned them, and we know how to conjugate them. Then there were those irregular preterites, the U stem, I stem, J stem verbs, and they had special endings. And we covered those really well. And now there's one more group of irregular preterites, and they're only irregular in the LA form, the third person singular, and the eos status form, the third person plural. Other than that, they're totally regular. So let's look at these verbs. And they give us a little reading. You can go through and do the reading, but let's go right to the little box here called Actividades Analíticas, where they'll explain the lesson. And this is on page 235. And the verbs they're referring to are going to be, these are all IR verbs. So if the AR and ER verbs are not at all in this grouping, and it's only stem changing IR verbs, verbs that in the present tense are stem changers, where the E goes to I, okay? Only with these verbs that have a stem change in the present tense and that are IR verbs. And this should refresh your memory that here are your verbs: pedir, to request or ask for; seguir, to follow; and there's also conseguir, to get, it's got seguir in it; servir, to serve; vestir, to get dressed. Okay, to dress, actually. In fact, these are the verbs, and let me see. So it will be, let's look at number 2. So it's pedir, to request; seguir, to follow; servir; and vestir. And there are some more verbs. These are IR verbs that have a stem change in the present tense. And in this case, these are IR verbs that have an O in the stem that goes to a UE in the present tense. So dormir, duermo; morir, muero. So it also includes these 2 other verbs, dormir. Okay, so let's take a look and see, first of all, what happens with the verbs pedir, seguir, servir, and vestir. So they are IR verbs. So you put the regular endings on them for preterite verbs that are IR verbs. Okay, so the endings we already know. So what are the endings for IR verbs in the preterite? Yo takes stem and ending. The ending is I. Tu takes iste. El and ella take an IO with an accent mark on the O. And ellos and ustedes takes what? Ieron. I-E-R-O-N. So the endings of all these verbs, we already know. We learned them in the last unit. But what happens here is in the el and the ellos forms, the third person plural and singular, there will be a stem change, okay, in these verbs. The E of the stem will go to I in the preterite form. So first of all, the regular stem of this verb is ped, so it's be yo pedi, I requested. You requested was tu pediste. Now, when we're in the third person singular, L, A, or stead, there's going to be a stem change, okay, in the verbs, a spelling change. The E of the stem goes to I. So instead of ped, it's going to be ped. So he asked or requested is el pid io. And you put the ION ending on it. For nosotros, it's going to just be pedimos. There is no stem change. There's only a stem change in the L and ella, and down here in the ustedes. And what is the stem change for E bearing IR verbs? The E goes to I in the preterite. Okay, so now with ellos, it's not going to be ped, it's going to be ped, okay? Pidieron, they requested. And the same for seguir, okay? Yo seguí, tu seguiste, but for el, ella, it's not seg, it'll be sig. Again, the E goes to I, but the endings are all the traditional preterite endings for IR verbs. Nosotros seguimos, and then for ellos, it's sig, siguieron. Servir the same way. The stem will here be serve. Yo serví, tu serviste, but for él, ella, usted, it's sirve, S-I-R-V, sirvió. Nosotros servimos, and ellos sirve, S-I-R-V, sirvieron. And then vestir, to dress. Yo, so it will be yo vestí, tu vestiste, but it won't be vest here. It's going to be what? Vist. El vistió. And then here, nosotros vestimos, and ellos not vest, but vistieron. That's it in a nutshell. And then we have these 2 O-bearing verbs, dormir and morir. And in the present tense, they are stem changes. They're also IR. Now, the O in the L and ellos forms will go to U in the preterite. So let's take a look. So I slept would be yo dormi, stem and ending, right? Tu dormiste, you slept. But he slept is él durmió. You gotta have that stem change. We slept, dormimos, and ellos durmieron. There's a stem change here. And the same for morir. Okay, let's see if there is anything more. So just be aware of those changes. They're minor, but those verbs are used a lot in Spanish. Okay, finally, let's move on in estructura or grammar. And now we want to look at the estructura 8.2. And give me a second here. I just want to, okay, well, we're in 8.2. Oh, and I did want to point out, before we do 8.2, let's just drop back here. Make sure you go through these sections, do the exercises, look at them, spend a little time reading, looking through these examples. And there's a lot of times there's little cultural pieces. Here's a section on Hugo Chavez, who came to power in Venezuela, making many socialist reforms in the Venezuelan economy. The Venezuelan economy is, there's a lot of wealth in Venezuela, like oil wealth, incredible oil wealth. And has been a lot of development. Caracas is a mega city. There was a large middle and upper middle class based on this oil wealth. Just incredible. But a good portion, maybe 70% of this of society lived in poverty or quasi-poverty. And Chavez attempted to address this through socialist reforms, and he angered people within Venezuela and outside of Venezuela. But his type of government is still going on. He passed away, but there's a section on him here, and this is and will be on your test because again, your test is made up of cultural readings and listening sections where you have to answer questions. So just make sure you take a look at that. Okay, let us move on to the second area of grammar. So the second area of grammar is 8.2, and this is on page 238 of your book. And again, they give you a little introduction to the grammar, but they really, and first of all, let me go back and tell you what we're going to look at here. When you speak or write about the past, you use the past tense. We do in English, we do in Spanish. And so we're going to use the preterite, right? The simple past, but we're also going to use the imperfect tense as well. And so what we want to learn here is, well, when do I use the preterite and when do I use the imperfect and how do I use them together? So let's take a look. So again, the preterite is the simple past, like we ate. Yesterday we ate. I walked. They ran. We talked. And it's the simple past. These are actions that are over and done with. They've been completed in the past once I state them. They were completed in the past. They're over and done with. The imperfect tense is something that happened in the past, but usually it's ongoing or cyclical. And I went through this when I introduced the imperfect tense. When you have a verb in the imperfect form, like to go, yo iba. Okay, that's the verb ir, to go. Yo iba means I was going. Tú ibas, you were going. Okay. Nosotros íbamos, we were going. That's what it means. Notice that's different than we went. Okay. That's the simple past. So think of it as we were or I was, were going, or speaking, was, were speaking, was, were seeing. Or you can translate it, depending upon context, as I used to go. So yo iba a la iglesia los domingos would mean I used to go to church on the Sundays. It was an ongoing, periodic, repetitive activity. As opposed to yo fui a la iglesia el domingo. I went to church on Sunday. It's kind of an over and done with act. So That's the difference in the meaning of the preterite versus the imperfect. If you want to show something is ongoing, something I used to do or were doing, use the imperfect. If you just want to say something happened and is all over with, use the preterite. It can get a little more tricky than that, but that's basically all it is. So let's take a look and go right to the actividades analíticas. So it says in number 1, you've seen the imperfect tense used to portray an event as happening over a period of time. So the imperfect is something that was ongoing over a period of time, where the exact starting and ending points don't matter. So here, Javier tenía una relación con Penélope. Con Penélope. Okay, so Javier was in a relationship. He had a relationship with Penelope. Okay. You've seen that the preterite tense, in contrast, is used to portray an event as being completed at a specific point in time. Javier salió en esa película en 2007. So Javier came out or appeared in the movie in 2007. It was over and done with. He wasn't constantly coming out and reappearing in it. Okay. So these basic principles apply when the two tenses are used in the same sentence. That's what we want to learn. Javier ya tenía una relación con Penélope. So Javier already had, ya means already, had a relationship or was having a relationship with Penelope. Like it's an ongoing relationship. So él tenía una relación con Penélope cuando salió en esa película, when he appeared or came out in the movie. All right. So there was an ongoing background action. That was the having of the relationship. But there was an interrupting event. What happened during that ongoing event? He came out or he appeared in a movie. So we put appeared or came out in the preterite because it's over and done with. It interrupted that action. And again, read what they say here. The verb tenía is in the imperfect because it refers to a time period when they're already in the relationship. It is not important here when it started or if it ever even ended. The verb salió is in the preterite because it portrays that the action as being completed. So it portrays that the action as being completed. It's over and done with. The implication is that Javier was in the relationship first, and then while still in it, he appeared in the movie. I mean, okay. Okay. All right. So it says many languages, just real quickly, are like Spanish and use verb tenses to make it clear whether two actions happened simultaneously or one after another, or with one action interrupting another. Above, we had the interrupting action. They were in an ongoing relationship, and then he appeared in the movie. So some languages are saying, I want to be a little more specific if it's just an over and done with fact, or if it's an ongoing fact, okay? And Spanish is like that. So let's just take a quick look at this. Here's one way the use of the preterite and imperfect tenses together can be visualized. All right. And so again, the imperfect is kind of an ongoing action. The preterite is vertical, it's over and done with. So it punctuates or interrupts that action. If you look at time, time is ongoing. And so imperfect over a long period of time or where it's not specified, but preterite is when it's over and done with. So the imperfect verb portrays an ongoing action happening in the background, while the preterite verb portrays an action that interrupts it, something that happens and is completed. So your completed action that you know has been completed is going to be in the preterite, while the background action goes on. Let's look at some examples here. Enrique buscaba una camisa. So what is it saying here? Enrique was looking for, buscaba. He was looking for a shirt en la tienda. So this is what he was doing. I don't care when he started or when he ended. That's what he was doing. Cuando María Elena lo vio. When Mary Elena saw him. So now the verb ver is in the preterite because it's over and done with. It's an interrupting action. Here's another interrupting action. Cuando Pilar vivía en Caracas, when Pilar used to live in Caracas, or was living, you told you can use it. It's an ongoing action. Consiguió. There's the verb. Seguir is the underlying verb, so that we learned earlier in the preterite, the stem changes from seg to sig, but conseguir means to get. When she got su primer trabajo, when she got her first job at Zara, so she got her job. That she just got the job, so it's an intervening event. It's in the preterite. Here's another example. Fuimos a la playa. We went to the beach. Okay, what do we use? It's over and done with. We went to the beach. Fuimos. It's in the preterite. But what else is going on here? Porque hacía mucho calor. What does hacía calor mean? Hacer calor is what? To be hot out. It's the weather. Now, the weather goes on and on. We don't know when it started to be hot or when it ended. Weather is usually, when you give it in the past, is given in the preterite. I'm sorry, in the imperfect tense. When you're talking about a past event and you're saying it was a rainy day, it was windy, usually you'll use all those weather expressions in the past tense in the imperfect because it's an ongoing action, as here. Okay, the weather it was continuous. Okay, when both verbs in a sentence are in the imperfect, it means the two events happened at the same time or overlapped. Enrique buscaba una camisa. So Enrique was looking for a shirt. Okay. En la tienda y hablaba con María Elena. And what else was he doing? He was speaking to María Elena. So you're going to put those in when two events occur simultaneously, you're going to put them in the imperfect. Cuando Pilar vivía en Caracas, when Pilar was living in Caracas or used to live in Caracas, she used to work in Zara. Both actions are ongoing. We don't care when they ended or began. And so you put them in the imperfect. That's basically all I want you to know there. When both verbs in a sentence are in the preterite, it means both events are complete. They're over and done with. They're not ongoing. And usually they happen kind of consecutively, one right after the other. Let's take a look. Enrique buscó una camisa. So Enrique looked for a shirt y luego and later habló con María Elena. And then later on, he spoke with María Elena. They're not overlapping, not in the imperfect. Both were completed. They're separate actions that they didn't go on at the same time. They followed one another consecutively. Pilar fue a Caracas. Pilar went to Caracas and worked en Zara. Y trabajó en Zara. Okay. You can take a look at this just to get a better feel. Okay. So let's, again, just look at some of this stuff. So it says the preterite versus the imperfect. Use the preterite to show that an action was completed. I don't care if it's ongoing. Enrique habló con María Elena ayer en la tienda. So often when you have these words like ayer, anteayer, anoche, so yesterday, last night I saw a movie, last night I spoke with somebody, it's over and done with. I put it in the preterite. Here's another one. Angélica fue estudiante en la Escuela Argentina de Moda en 2018. So she was a student at the Argentine School of Design in 2018. Okay, use the imperfect to show that an action was ongoing when the beginning and end points are not important. And here's some good language. De niño. Whenever you see a sentence start out with de niño or de niña, which means as a child, o cuando yo era niño, or cuando yo era niña. As a child, Enrique hablaba mucho con María Elena. So as a child, so during his youth, it's an ongoing thing. So you're going to use the imperfect. And immediately, that de niño or de niña immediately triggers the imperfect because it's an ongoing action. The beginning and end of that action are not important. Here's another one. Angélica era estudiante en la Escuela Argentina de Moda in 2018. She was a student at the school, possibly before or after. Okay. Imperfect and preterite together. So when you have the imperfect used with the preterite, again, the imperfect is an ongoing action. Something's going on in the background. We don't care when it began or ended, but something punctuates it, interrupts it. That's always in what? The preterite because it's over and done with. So let's take a look. We already did this one, but Enrique buscaba una camisa. Enrique was looking for a shirt. That's the ongoing action. We don't care when it began or ended. Cuando María Elena lo vio, when she saw him, the interruption. All right. Pilar vivía en Caracas when she was living in Caracas, or when she used to live in Caracas. She conseguir means to got. She got her first job. The getting of the job is over and done with. That's it, not preterite. Okay, let's see. What if both are again used in the imperfect? We said when both verbs are used in perfect, it means they were kind of overlapping or could occurred at the same time. So, Enrique buscaba una camisa mientras hablaba con María Elena. You'll often see that word mientras used when you want the imperfect. It means while. So if I'm doing one thing while I'm doing another thing, I'm doing them together, so I'm going to use the imperfect. So Enrique buscaba una camisa. He was looking for a shirt while he was speaking with María Elena. What if both actions are in the preterite? Sometimes you will do this when one occurs after the other and they're over and done with. So Enrique buscó una camisa. He looked for a shirt and later spoke with María Elena. And so again, take a look at that. I think your book goes through this quite well. And there will be one question on this. All right. Okay, and you will do some, of course, in your homework. And then let me see, is there anything else here? Okay, and let me see what else we have. Okay, finally, we have object pronoun placement with infinitives. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Our object pronouns. And our object pronouns can either be our direct object pronouns. For yo, it's me, tú is te, él is lo, ella is la, right? Lo would mean him, la would mean her. It, if it's feminine, is la, and it, if it's masculine, is lo. Us, for nosotros, is nos, and for ellos, it will be los, if it's them, meaning men, just a group of men or men and women. Las, if it's just a group of women. Los, if it's masculine objects, them, and las, if it's feminine objects, them. You can review that. Go look at 6.3. And then we had the indirect object pronouns. To or for whom is something done. So to or for me, the indirect object pronoun is me. To or for you, to would be te. To or for him is le. To or for her is le. Okay. To or for you, usted is le. To or for us is nos. And then to or for them, ellos is les. Or to or for them, ustedes. For you all is les. And so when we're using these direct and indirect object pronouns, and we have two verbs in a and we have two verbs in a sentence, and one of the verbs is in the infinitive form, the unconjugated A-R-E-R-I-R form. We can attach that object pronoun to the end of the infinitive. Okay, so hablarle. Okay, decirlo. We can attach it to the end of the object pronoun. Normally, if you recall, all object pronouns, where are they placed? They're placed before the conjugated verb. That's where they go. In English, we put them after, but in Spanish, we put them before. But when you have two verbs and the second verb is a what? An infinitive, you now have an option of putting that object pronoun and attaching it to the end of the infinitive. This is real simple stuff, and you can go through it and look at it, but let's take a look. So in actividades analíticas, let's take a look. If we just have one verb here, I want to say quiero, I want it. The it is could be la if it's feminine here. We don't know what it is. Maybe it's a pencil, the pencil. So it's el lápiz. Lo quiero, yo lo quiero. I want it. So you always have to put your object pronoun before the conjugated verb. What if you have two verbs though? Okay. And then here's an indirect object. Dar is from D is from dar to give. D is the, if you recall, is the preterite, the irregular preterite form of the verb to give. So yo di el libro ayer, I gave the book yesterday to him or to her. So I gave him the book. Yo le di el libro ayer. Where do I put my object pronoun? Right before the conjugated verb. But now here we have a couple verbs going on. So and here we have a verb infinitive. Okay. So es importante leerlo. It's important to read it. Say it's the book. Okay. Or el periódico, it. Okay. Es necesario darle el libro. It's necessary to give him the book. So when we have an infinitive, we can attach our object pronouns to the end of the infinitive. That's all. Okay. And again, this is an example. They're giving you examples where you're going to have two verbs. So voy a means I am going, and then you could have whatever verb there you want. I'm going to read. Voy a leer. Obviously, any verb used after these phrases are always going to be in the infinitive. I'm going to read is yo voy a leer. And now you want to say the book. So I'm going to say I'm going to read it. So I could put the lo here, lo voy a leer, or voy a leerlo. Leerlo becomes one whole word. Quiero plus the infinitive, so I want to have them. So quiero tener, and then them, let's say it's I don't know, books. So I would say los quiero tener, or quiero tener los, and I put los at the end of the infinitive. So take a look at that, and it's very straightforward, very simple. When you have a verb infinitive, you can put the object pronoun, whether it's los, or les, or le, or la, you can put it and attach it to the end of the infinitive, okay? Or you can put it before the conjugated verb. And I think that does it for this unit, okay? So the test this week, I'm sorry, it's due this coming Sunday. It's not that difficult. Make sure you're familiar with your articles of clothing, that you know how to say something fits him well, le queda bien, or fits her well, le queda bien, or le queda grande, le queda apretado. Look particularly at that section of vocabulario. To wear something, you can use the verb usar. Yo uso una camiseta. I'm wearing a t-shirt. or ella lleva un vestido. She's wearing a dress. Okay. Uh, make sure you're familiar with that vocabulary. And I don't think the upcoming test is that difficult. And that should do it for um, this evening.